Hello, you hard-working little marketing bees. You're tuned into episode 43 of the Marketing Buzzword Podcast.
This is the Marketing Buzzword Podcast, the podcast where we dissect the world's most common marketing buzzwords. Hold on tight. We are about to fly around the beehive to see the latest buzzwords that stuck to the marketing bees.
Hello again, and welcome back to the Marketing Buzzword Podcast. This is the podcast which helps you to understand what all of these business and marketing buzzwords actually mean and how they can be helpful or not going forward. I'm your host, Ben Roberts, and in this show, I am the marketing bee in charge of making sure I get on the right guests and ask the right questions to make sure that these words and phrases actually make sense. And in today's show, we're going to try and make sense of the word, buzzword, term, Facebook groups. I know this isn't necessarily strictly a buzzword because it's been around for a while, but this is something that's really seems to be caught my attention recently, and I've got the perfect person to come on and talk to you about it. Before we do that, though, I need to remind you about the crowdfunding campaign for the book Marketing Buzzword to Marketing Authority, which is live on Publishizer now. There's a link to it from the marketingbuzzword.com page. In this book, I talk about actually how you, sort of the world of buzzwords, why they form, what the future is in, why they're important, how you can align yourself to them. Look at how you could build a personal brand or build a business around a buzzword, and how actually, if you have an existing business, how you can increase the size of your business through buzzwords, how you can get all your employees to sort of buy into it, how they can leverage their personal brands to help impact upon the main business's brand. So many cool things, so many case studies from so many people on the podcast and outside the podcast too. I am so excited. So please, if you've got 2 minutes, please go on the Publishizer page, buy $15, get a copy of the book, signed copy of the book. That's like £11.50, 13-ish euros. For just $15, that's the minimum buy-in. Honestly, minimum, absolute minimum. And if you all do that, I'd have more than enough to absolutely smash this crowdfunding campaign. So if you get a second, please have a look at that. And just before I get on to this week's guest, I need to remind you this podcast is powered by Talkative. Talkative is a company that brings together live web chat, voice calls, video calls, and co-browsing together in one package into your website, allowing your customers to contact you in the way that suits them and gives you more data, more insights, and gives you more control over how you communicate back to them. Find out more at talkative.uk. Now, that's more enough about me. It's time to introduce this week's guest. And this week's expert buzzword bee is a woman called Bella Vasta, and she is absolutely killing it in Facebook groups right now. Absolutely owning it, and she's literally the perfect person for this podcast. Now, Bella is the dynamic personality behind the one-woman coaching company Jump Consulting. Since 2002, Bella has been a trailblazer in the pet sitting industry, consulting with multi-million-dollar companies all the way to hundreds of small businesses. She is an author, podcast host, blogger, and has been featured on NBC, CBS, Fox, NPR, Entrepreneur Magazine, and Huffington Post. After the birth of her micro-preemie daughter, Bella sold her first pet sitting business and now lives out her passion to inspire, motivate, and challenge business owners through her speaking, coaching, and consulting. Loads of links to where you can find out more about Bella in the show notes, but you can contact her at bella@jumpconsulting.net, and I'm going to share it so literally on Twitter, Facebook, all the great places. So check it out on the show notes and you get a direct link to it. Otherwise, just type in Bella Vasta or Bella Pets and you'll find her on all these social media platforms. Right. It's more than enough from me. Let's get on with the show. Hi, Bella, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
Oh, no, I think I'm more excited. And I think we just had a little conversation before we went online. I think we're going to try and challenge you here because I've heard that you are the queen of Facebook groups. And I heard there is not a thing about Facebook groups that you don't know or haven't tried. So it's my...
Oh my goodness. I don't think we can say nothing out there because you're always learning. But I would say that my 6 years of building businesses in them have given me lots of knowledge.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that's what we're going down. I think that's why, although sort of Facebook groups maybe not be strictly a marketing buzzword. It's something that people are talking about all the time. And so, Bella, why are Facebook groups seem to be becoming more and more of a thing? It seems like people talked about them for a while, quite a while ago, probably about 6 years ago. I know I joined a load of Facebook groups and people seem to use them for all sorts of random things. I mean, I got invited to parties through Facebook groups. I got invited to have random conversations through it. But now people are starting to really start to use Facebook groups properly. It seems to be maturing as a platform within a platform. So why is that, and how are people starting to use it in 2018?
Right. So in my opinion, that big Facebook apocalypse or Facebook Zero that happened, at the beginning of this year, I think that really helps shift people's mindset and think, am I really using Facebook groups as good as I can? Because with that big, huge change with Facebook, that everyone feels like it was a big change, Facebook basically said what it's always been saying, is that we want people to interact with each other. We want them to have a good experience with each other. And Ben, where does that happen? In Facebook groups. We have this false sense of security that whatever goes on in those groups is private, even though we can screenshot, right? But we do have that false sense of security. But those groups also allow a niche of a niche in a way where everybody has a common problem or a common interest, that they have that bonding. Maslow's hierarchy of needs plays into it too, believe it or not. Maslow said that, we all want to feel safe. We all want to feel a sense of belonging. And what better way than in a Facebook group? I can give you lots of examples of that too, but I'm going to let you have a break here.
No, I think it's absolutely true, isn't it? And it's people don't necessarily think actually that business and the way we communicate, social media and society, comes back to that something that everyone learned in school and university. You learned about this hierarchy of needs where they have a need for security, you have a need for social interaction, and you want to be around people that like the same things as you and are interested in the same things as you. Why would you want to sort of spend time in a platform with people that don't want the same things as you, or don't have the same goals, values, or just are generally interested in the same thing? Because people like people that are like them, and the Facebook groups maybe seem is almost the perfect way of being able to engage, interact with those sort of people.
Right, and it also solves the big complaint that we hear on Facebook all the time is Facebook doesn't show me what I want, and it's like, first of all, you can teach Facebook to do that. But second of all, if you can just go into a specific group. Ben, there was a point in my life that you may or may not have known, but I actually had one of the world's 50 smallest surviving female babies on the planet. She was 12 ounces, or in your conversion, 350 grams.
Wow.
She was, an inch shorter than a Barbie doll, and we were in the hospital for 6 months. Now, while we were doing that, I was growing my 6-figure massive employee pet sitting company. And I also had this coaching company that I was running. But besides those things, I, as a human being, as a mom who did not know if her daughter was going to survive, was seeking out Facebook groups just so that I could connect with other mamas in the world who had what is called a micro preemie. I'm not talking about someone who was in NICU for 7 days or someone who had, a 4-pound baby. I'm talking about someone who had a baby that was under a pound or under 16 ounces. And, through Facebook groups, that's where I was able to personally find solace or encouragement in a time in my life where I just wanted to know there are other people out there like me. And that might be an extreme example, but that premise can be applied to everyone in business and in life.
Yeah. And how does that necessarily translate into a business? I don't think I've met anyone on the planet that could say there are incredibly good causes and amazing way to be able to connect with people, especially on on a social level, where you can connect with people who are like the sort of horrific thing that you had to go through, but you could find solace with people. I think it's quite easy for people to have an affinity from that side of things. But I guess from a business side of things, is it the same? Is it the same? And should every business create a Facebook group? And how do they actually make it work for them? If, for example, you're a manufacturing company, is it possible to have a Facebook group? And because obviously you don't connect to people on the same sort of social level as you would through the experience that you had.
Super question. And like anything in life, I think it's important to have a plan before you start. So I would absolutely say that there is not ever one type of business that should, quote unquote, not have a Facebook page. I think it comes down to the leadership and who's leading them. So using your example of manufacturing, I'm not sure what kind, we'll go down this rabbit hole here, Ben, if that's okay.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
You have a manufacturing plant who is, I don't know, what could they manufacture? And they manufacture something, but they're really big on giving back to the community and doing community outreach and doing charity events and all this stuff. So what happens is this manufacturing company comes into this town. This town might not necessarily really, like the fact that they're coming, or maybe they do because the jobs are coming. I mean, there's so many variables here, right? But this company could take like a goodwill stand of, this is our group where we do goodwill in the community to give back. So if you're looking for events in the town, this is your central located place. If you're looking for ways to give back, this is your centrally located place. If you're looking for value of information based off around somehow something that they do, right? Maybe it's Dial Corporation and it's how to be a better mom, or how to get those grease stains out of the pants. So what you basically do is you take your brand and you make an interest or a platform out of it in a way that will connect people together that's sponsored by you. You're not up there selling soap. You're not up there selling widgets or steel or something, but it's more about, BP Oil Company, they have a big spill or something. If they had a group or something, they could get their community involved in how we could help save the ducks, or this is how we do it, the behind the scenes kind of thing. There's so many different ways that you could be interesting to your community that isn't necessarily going to be shown on a Facebook page because of that Facebook apocalypse and Facebook zero, that reach and quote unquote engagement is going way down to the low single digit numbers, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and would a business say then set it up, would you set it up as your own name? So for example, if it was Ben Roberts Incorporated Facebook group, or would you call it something completely different and try and almost disassociate it with the company so it didn't look like it was a brand that was running it? Or would you just say, you know what, own it as a brand channel? Because there's two different ways of looking at it. Because I know from a customer's perspective, sometimes I would or wouldn't want to join what I would see it as a brand group. I'd like to see it as a charity, like a cleaning up the local area group. So for example, let's use BP as your example while we go down this rabbit hole. Should say BP in this example set up a group that was said help the local environment around Florida and clean up the beaches, or would you say they brand it around BP? How does that work, and is there a difference in style there?
Fantastic question, and I think the answer is it depends. And so exactly what you were just saying, the only thing I would add to that is sponsored or hosted by BP. You would put it at the end there, and in the description you would have a little like byline at the end of it, but the focus would be on the interest. So when I say it depends, typically I see businesses doing things around some sort of an interest, or if it's a local business around the area. I have some pet sitters and dog walkers who do like pet parents of Scottsdale, and it provides this platform where you can bring in a lot of other businesses like veterinarians, groomers, trainers, pubs or bars that are dog friendly, stores that are dog friendly, and it allows a lot of networking to happen. Then you've got other figures like maybe Todd Herman, who does the 90-day thing. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah.
And he has his own group, and it's Todd Herman, the 90-day, and so it kind of depends, but it goes back to, again, the leadership. And I think anything can happen, but you really want it to be, I think, if you're a business, about your audience, because nobody wants to join a Jump Consulting Facebook group page. Like, it's all about me, When I started it on accident in 2012, my very first group, I come from the pet sitting and dog walking background, and I own a pet sitting company with staff, because I wanted to get the people that not only had a dog walking or a pet sitting company, but they had staff. because they have a different set of needs and problems. And so it really truly depends. But I would, in order to answer that, Ben, I would throw it back on the person wanting to start and say, what is your goal? And where do you see this group? Is it to help someone through a product or a problem? Is it being used, because groups can be used many different ways, at the top of the funnel or at the bottom of the funnel, you know? And it's really going to depend on how you position yourself. And is this going to be, like I said, the top or the bottom of the funnel, but is it going to be a kickoff to get people to keep going down the rabbit hole again, like in your business, doing more stuff, or is it the final destination? So there's a lot of different things that you need to kind of consider when starting one.
Yeah, I think that's really important, isn't it? I think that's one of the biggest errors that especially people who aren't used to the social space still, or are still maybe a little bit naive or inexperienced with it, is because I know I've been there and done it myself. Well, I've set up a Facebook group and it's tried to be about us and what we do, and people don't want to be a part of that. And it's a case of very rarely should it ever be about you. It should usually be about the audience and value. I'm part of some Facebook groups which are about products, and it's about a new product, and they're showing updates and releases, and that's interesting for me because it's like a users group. So that's one way of looking. That's probably one of the few examples I personally found where it's been about the company.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the other ones, and then we're both part of a social media group, a private Facebook group, and that's a completely different side. And it's not about them. It's rarely about them. It's all about the people, the users, discussions around topics, news, updates, and it's the most phenomenal resource of things because it's not about the company. Yes, there are occasional bits of company put in there because they have to be able to earn a revenue and an ROI. There has to be some sort of ROI for the amount of time and effort they put into it. There's got to be something back. So that leads me. Oh, sorry, carry on, Bella. I thought you were about to say.
And it's such a good point. It's the I believe it's the Social Media Society group that you and I are part of.
Yeah.
Which is a phenomenal resource. I've been in there for like 2 years now, and you're absolutely right. They're always giving us value in there, and there's something we can expect in there too, right, Ben? Like we know twice a month we're going to get these awesome value-packed trainings because we are members of this secret society. So we all belong there together, right? We also know that when there's breaking news, like there was, I think it was this morning, when Facebook came out and said we're going to be doing this mentorship in groups, that they were on the cutting edge there to help all of these social media people understand what was happening and bring them the news if they didn't know it already, right? So
Exactly.
It's a place that you can trust for cutting edge news, but also trust that I could go into that group and post a question, and I could get some quality responses from all around the world. And resources, like you said, that's how you and I hooked up. It was through there. And then we figured out that we had a lot of mutual connections as well, which when we realized that you belong in that club too, you instantly have this connection with someone because you have that commonality.
Yeah, exactly. You almost got an instant rapport. I guess it's like when you go to these networking events and when we go to conferences and stuff, and suddenly like you have something in common, which makes the conversation already that much more interesting. So instead of having to do that awkward small talk where you're trying to find something that you actually have in sync, you've already got something really, a real good connection. And that's how, I guess, as a company, you build connections with your customers, which brings an affinity back. Because for us, we like Social Media Exam because they've actually put us in this community together, which means we've built a connection and we have more of an affinity back to the company. And because we're making these great connections, learning this incredible stuff, we stay a part of this society and this Facebook group.
Precisely. I mean, I don't ever question, and I don't want this to be like, I don't mean this to be like a commercial or anything, and Ben and I don't get anything for this, but like, It's why I would never think of not renewing my membership every year because it is so dang valuable. But that's a great example of an amazing Facebook group. Ben, can I give you another one if we could just kind of meander through this?
Oh no, please do. Yeah, I'm really keen. I'm going to sort of chuck in my next question actually, which I think is pretty much leading on. Is there how else other groups actually make money from these businesses, which I assume is what you're going to sort of go into now. How do businesses actually work Facebook groups to be able to earn back what they're putting in?
Yeah. Such a beautiful question, and we didn't have these questions pre-planned beforehand, so this is this is just flowing, you guys who are listening. I want you to know this, but we are so buzzing around the same beehive right now, Ben, because here's the thing. I wanted to tell you a quick story, and then I'm going to give you a lot of other examples too. There's this group called Impact Branding, and they just had a conference this week. I was just in Connecticut, got home yesterday, and they have a group called Impact Elite. And I heard about this group because someone I really trusted and admired, Marcus Sheridan, recently connected with them and merged with them. And so I said, wow, like, let me see what's inside. So I go into this group, and much like we were just talking about, I knew I could expect stuff. They have weekly shows in there. I knew I could ask questions in there and get awesome feedback or results from it. But here's the kicker. And they talked a lot about this week too. They allow everyone in there. There's 3,500 people in there. You don't have to be a member of anything or anything. They just want to provide value to their competitors, to people that are starting up that would never be clients, and of course to clients. Like, they come at it from a servient mindset. Now, because of that servient mindset, I saw that they were having this conference. I bought a ticket back in October because I was just so enthralled with the way I felt in that Facebook group. And I wasn't just stopping there. I also made a call out to my community and got 8 other businesses to go there with me. One of those businesses have a serious call to maybe do services with them this week. And 3 of them, and then me, so 4, all bought our tickets to go back there again next year because of this incredible energy and excitement and self-development and just bursts of knowledge that we got. I mean, this was a really great conference to be at. And now I also know I can go back into this group and then be like, oh, guys, I'm so sad the conference is over. And, oh, it was such a good time meeting you. And when I went to that conference, Ben, a lot of those people were like, hey, Bella, what's up? And I'm like, hi, do I know you? And they're like, yeah, we know you from the group, like, because I'm very active in that group because I like it. And so networking alone, Ben, when you take it from the group into real life, was amazing. And the third example I'm going to give you, if I can keep going, is that okay?
Oh, you're absolutely flying there. I don't want to steal your mojo, Bella.
I always want to take a breath and make sure I'm not just totally on a soapbox here. I'm going to give you my own personal story here. I use Facebook groups like a funnel. So I've got 3 major groups where it's a really big one that you go into. And then the next one is a little bit more niche. And then the last one is a monthly membership that people pay to be inside of. And it really solved my own personal problem of, I loved my Facebook groups for the past 5 years, but this 6th year of Facebook groups, I said, you know what, I spend so much dang time on Facebook, and every time that I spend working is time away from my family, right? I have my daughter and I have my husband. I said, I need to figure out a way to monetize this. So I put all my favorite kind of people in this one group where they pay a monthly membership for, and it generates 6 figures a year and counting in there. And a lot of people have done that too. So that's the bottom of the funnel, right? But it's very few people just automatically jump into paying you something. They have to warm up to you, just like I did with that impact and branding. I was in their group. I liked what they're doing. I went to their conference. Social media marketing world. I was in their group. Actually, I went to their conference, then I wanted to be in the group. I didn't know about the group till after the conference, but I've stayed in the group, and it's a way of getting excitement of taking that online relationship offline. And this is something, a total different tangent, but I also want to bring this up because I think this is really, really important. At the end of the day, this is the human side of this, Ben. And I hope our audience is really listening up right now. Facebook groups can save lives. Angus Nelson has the life of dad, and he's phenomenal at helping.
Yeah, we've had him on here.
Thank you. So I was just speaking with him at Social Media Week Lima in Ohio a month and a half ago, and I was talking about Facebook groups, of course, and he was saying, you know what, Bella, I've had 6 men in my groups, because he has a lot of subgroups. He breaks his groups down like dads with daughters, dads with special needs kids, dads with, all these things. It's really unique and awesome. And he said, Bella, I've had 6 men over the course of our groups post in these groups, you know what, guys, like, I just don't want to go on. Like, I don't want to be on this earth anymore. and it gives me goosebumps. And I'm in the middle of Arizona. It's 110 degrees right now. It still gives me goosebumps just telling you this. I don't want our listeners to negate the impact that they can truly have in a group. All 6 of those men that day chose life instead of something else. And it was because of that community that they felt safe enough to reach out to when they probably didn't feel safe enough with people standing in front of them. So there are just so many different ways your business can help change the world and encourage people through Facebook groups. It does not have to be you selling stuff. So Ben, is your mind blown yet?
Oh, my mind was blown about 25 minutes ago, nearly before we even started. From our pre-chat, my mind was already blown, Bella.
Lovely.
But it's true though, isn't it? And it's that sense of community. Yes, not every business or organization is going to potentially have the most massive of impacts, but actually just impacting one person. I think that I've seen so many people wear this t-shirt, we're all famous to someone, and it's not about how many people you have in your group, it's about actually the impact and the relationships you create with those people. That's what really matters, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's just like that impact story I told you. I was so enthralled by the energy and excitement in a Facebook group that I was like, I have to meet these people in real life. And I also have to use this opportunity to try to bring some of my crew with me too. And they all just had the best time. Some of them, it was their first time at a conference, and there's just so much goodness that can come from it, truly. But I think what the overarching thing really is people that are listening that might either A, have a group that think, well, my group just doesn't have any engagement, or B, I don't know how to start a group or what to do. I think you really need to think of it like a mini business plan. You need to think of, where in my business is this going to serve a purpose? What is it going to do for my business? And how am I going to execute it? Not figuring all that out once you just start a group, like just because it's easy to do in 30 seconds. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Now, on that note, one of the things I just scribbled down here is there a minimum viable audience, do you think, for a Facebook group? Is there something that a business would, to be able to get anything from it, do they have to have a certain number of people? Because obviously, the way I see it maybe is that in order to create a real successful community, you have to have buy-in from everyone, and you have to have some sort of regular interaction. So if you almost haven't got enough people there, is it a self-fulfilling prophecy? Once you get more people in there, groups almost start spiraling quickly. Is it like a domino effect? Do you have to almost like, we need like this many people in to have this many, not even necessarily a number of audiences, but you need to have a certain number of conversations in order for it to become successful?
Such a super question. And so if we take it on the tiny scale there, yes, the 80-20 rule will come out eventually, right? Like 20% of your people will be the ones that are carrying the conversation. You'll get a lot of wallflowers, right? But that's where, again, the planning, the how comes in. Are you going to have a community manager in there promoting conversation and replying to everybody and getting people to come out of the woodwork? But on the other end of that spectrum, I've had groups, and I call them pop-up groups. I don't know if there's an official term, but that's what I call them.
I like it. Roll with it.
and so what I've done is, and let me back up a little bit more here. I started this workout program a long time ago, and we worked out every single day for a half hour, and we meal prepped and we meal planned. And my coach had her own little group, and we would do this like 3-week cycle. And when the 3 weeks was over, that group was done and we'd start a new one. And I said, oh, shoot, I should be able to do this for my own company. So I had this 4-week course that I teach pet sitters how to have employees. And I said, I'll have a 6-week program where every week I'll present, a different lesson, and we'll deep dive. And I had this whole plan, of course, because remember, you have to have a plan before you start this. And I'll have it, it's a certain amount of money to be in there. And then it ends, and maybe there's an ask in there for another upsell, right? So my point, Ben, is that there are a multitude of ways that you can use a group. It depends on if it's just a massive group just to collect a whole bunch of people, or if it's a after the conference group, or if it's a certain problem group, or if it's a short term, this is what we need to do. Maybe it's, there's these groups called Swip Swap, where it's like an online yard sale. I mean, there are so many different types of groups that you could have. There's groups, my mastermind, we use a social learning so that we can have units in it. And the units is, it's kind of like a filing system. It helps us keep track of the different topics and things. And every month, what I've done is every month I change the topic. So if you come in August and you want to learn about video, and we did that in February, you could go to units and look on all the things we did about video. So what I'm saying, and I know I'm probably getting overwhelming right now, is that it depends, again, because there's so many different things that you can do. And the best way to figure that out is to have a plan before you start. Is it going to be short term? Is it going to be long term? Is it going to be really big? Is it going to be really small? At one point in one of my groups, when I first started, I said, this is really dictator-y, so I apologize in advance. I said no one can post on Sunday. And if they did, I deleted it because I was trying to encourage my group members, busy pet sitting business owners, to take a day off. And I decided Sunday was the day of rest. How profound of me. And, but, I eventually laxed off of that. Then there was one point that I said, if you have not participated, I'm going to delete you from the group. So once a week, I would go through the list of people. And if I didn't know who they were, and then I would take the time to double check to see if they posted, I would just delete them. And then people knew that and that was when we only had a couple hundred people, right? You can't be doing that with 1,000 people.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying, Ben, is that the possibilities are endless, okay? Absolutely endless.
I know my mind is being opened and open more and more all the way through. But I'm thinking that I can see how you and your personality are perfect for running a Facebook group. Now, does it take a certain type of person to run a Facebook group? Do you need to be someone who loves conversation, loves being active, loves driving and networking and sharing stuff? Do you have to have a certain personality type, or is it just maybe easier, or is it something that you think actually requires a specific skill set to do?
Ben, I'm going to be a little cheeky and throw that one back to you. If I am not good at QuickBooks and accounting, should I not start a business?
Well, I mean, there's things you can learn, and I guess there are shortcuts you can take. I mean, just because you're not good at something, you can learn it. Does whether it means that you should start a business straight away? Should you learn it after? I mean, yeah, I guess it's a loaded question.
Hire a bookkeeper, right? So for Facebook groups, once you have your plan, right, you have to have a plan. You have to have a plan. But once you have that plan, if you feel like you're not good enough, which I think all of us feel like that at some point, then there's these things called Facebook community managers that you could go to Elance or Upwork and you can find people to help you run it. Now, you have to give them your plan and tell them what your expectations are. But you could, if you don't want to be in your Facebook group every day, or you do not want to be coming up with the content for it, then if you can be a good leader, which is what you have to be as a business owner, then you could very easily plug someone into that. No, everyone is not like me. And because I am so kind of outgoing, I a lot. Believe it or not, I'm not always like this. So
no, I agree completely. I mean, I guess that's what I think that I believe in. I guess is that if you're not necessarily good at something, you can do two ways. You can either outsource it and do stuff you love, or you can knuckle down and try and learn it yourself. So I guess it's a bit of a loaded question from my point of view, and that's why I got you on here, Bella, because I know you can tackle some of these questions, and this is why I love asking these questions, and you just sort of smashed it by chucking it straight back in my face, and I'm gutted.
too cheeky for you.
Yeah, no, but I think this is one of these sort of topics that I think is something that people are talking about all the time. I'm seeing so many massive changes in Facebook groups. I know I can't remember if it's come out already or not, but have they got paid walls through Facebook groups yet? I know there was something announced recently about it.
Yeah, you mean the subscriptions. They're actually tested right now. They're not actually open to everyone. I don't have the feature yet, but they are coming. But I want to encourage everyone listening, Ben, and yourself, that the one thing that Facebook is never going to change is they want people to be interacting and engaging with each other. They want those conversations to happen, and they also want video. And if you have those two things, your chances of being seen on that algorithm is high. And so in Facebook groups, that's where people are communicating. That's where people feel safe. That's where this stuff is happening. And yes, I think it would be smashing, if I can use that word, once once that feature is rolled out to everybody. I think it would be really great. It would definitely save me a step because I have to go to a third party and run my memberships that way, and then allow access, and then every month have to kind of reconcile who's in the group and who's still a member, that kind of thing. So that would be very useful. But I think that's Facebook kind of telling us, if I can be so bold and say this, that they really do see Facebook groups as something, the way of the future, because they're not really rolling out too many new things for pages right now. It's groups, it's the units feature, it's the subscriptions, and they have, I'm pretty sure, a lot more stuff that they're working on to make these groups even more successful.
Yeah, I think it all comes back to where obviously it's everything post Cambridge Analytica and all that fun stuff, where basically it's gone back to where Facebook with their new advertising campaign, it said we're going back to the conversations. It's about connecting with your friends, your family, and that side of things. And I guess groups are almost the perfect way of doing that, because again, like we talked about, it shouldn't be about you. It should be about the value and offering some sort of community, and that's something that Facebook groups is so much better at than pages, because as a group, I don't know, it's one of those things, once you're in a group and there's regular conversation there, you want to be a part of it, whereas with pages, for example, it becomes, it by its very nature, like it becomes more outbound and it's less sort of two-way, whereas a group by its nature is very much two-way.
I always kind of say that the Facebook page is kind of like your front lawn, and the Facebook group is your back lawn, like your backyard. You're only invited in there, right? It's still a part of your ecosystem. It's part of your land, but the public, the people driving by on the street, can see the front of your house. But if I like you, or I want you to be in my cookout, and I want you to hang out in my pool, then I'm going to invite you in my backyard, and we're going to have like a beer, and we're going to like chill, and we're going to have a conversation, and we're going to enjoy each other, right?
No, I absolutely love that analogy. I think that sort of, I think as a visual representation goes, I can't think of a way of describing it. I absolutely love that. You've definitely used that one before, haven't you?
I have.
And I think I have sort of one other question really sort of before we wrap this up, Bella, and I think it's something that we haven't quite touched on yet, and I know it's something that you've got some insights to share on. It's sort of the differences between using Facebook groups as a brand versus using it as a solopreneur, a dadpreneur, a mumpreneur, or like as an individual versus using it as a brand. Is there any advice, any particular ways in which they are the same or different?
Oh, we could do a whole hour on this. So I kind of think, and I don't mean to be so wishy-washy. It's kind of hard to talk abstractly. So I've seen some solopreneurs name communities after themselves, and it's just really surface. There's some complaining because it's not moderated well. There's a lot of, Tips Tuesday and Wacky Wednesdays. Don't ever do that, please. And it's just very stale. And then you've got other like solopreneurs that kind of open up a group around their platform, their topic that they're teaching on, right? Social media, coaching, time management, goals, something like that, like a big kind of thing. When you're an actual corporation, you got a lot of different things to deal with. Sometimes it's just location based. Do you have a major one like Coke or Pepsi? Or do you have, you're a car dealership and you're going to have an individual page in every city that you're in? So I think it really truly depends. And that's what it goes back to when I sit down with people and we figure out strategy and what do you want to get out of it? It comes back to your goals. Do you want to just have a group where you want people to know of the latest and greatest thing and it's all about you? Or are you really focused on giving back to people? And I think, Ben, that you and I both know as marketeers, and I'm sure your audience, because they're very smart because they're listening right now to the Marketing Buzzword Podcast, that they know that the best kind of marketing is when it's not about you and it's about them.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think this is where I want to really make sure that I point people back in your direction, Bella, and because and have a chat with you. I think 'cause obviously that was a sort of a 2-minute answer to a sort of 2-hour long podcast that you could have.
I'm sorry I can't be so concrete. It's just there's so many different ways to crumble this cookie that there's just not one way, you know?
Yeah, well, I think it's my fault for asking in the last 2 minutes of the podcast more than anything. But again, this is why it's perfect, and this is why I wanted to share experiences and knowledge like yours on this show, so I can learn a huge amount and I can share your knowledge, because I'm finding people like you who are doing amazing things with different terms and words. So around Facebook groups, obviously it's such a powerful term that more and more people seem to wanting to get on board with this, understanding the value of it again, because they understand the value of actual conversations now instead of just shouting and scheduling loads of stuff. And and I really want to make sure that I point people back in your direction, Bella. And thank you so much for coming on today. You showed so many knowledge bombs. Honestly, I tried to catch a few of them, but I've had to just write them all down. And this is why every podcast is recorded, so you can listen back to it on demand. Like, this will be one of those ones that I'm gonna have to listen back to 2 or 3 times myself to make sure I get all the value out of it.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. It was such a pleasure.
Oh no, the pleasure's all mine. But Bella, before I let you go, I've got to ask you the question I ask everyone at the end of each of these podcast episodes, because I'm so cool like that and I have to ask the same question. Is, what other marketing buzzwords out there right now are you loving or hating? What is really grinding your gears, flipping your flop, buzzing your bee, you hate? And what else are you absolutely loving? What is a term that you think is, yes, this is the next big thing, or this is something you can really get on board with, or people should care about?
Yeah, and I think this one's more conceptual, Ben. I've been kind of thinking about this, and I think it's this fixation with the quantity. I mean, it starts first with, as an example, Instagram. You need 10,000 for the swipe up. Well, why? I could go get a bot and have all these people, follow me. It's not about these numbers. It's not about likes. It's not about the numbers. It's about the people, and it's about what changes with your presence or their presence. And we're focused so much as marketeers of, I got so many more likes, or I got all this stuff. And it's like, it's like nails on a chalkboard to me when people say that they got this many more likes on their Facebook page. Cause I'm like, great. Well, if you still have like 2 people engaging with you, or talking back with you, your stats just plummeted. Like, you just shot yourself in the foot. Like, do you realize that? Like, it's better to have a smaller group of people. And I'm very thankful to say that that's kind of what I've done, which I think I get discredited sometimes, because my community is quote unquote small when compared to a lot of other influencers. But I'll tell you that I really feel like my influence or my voice is very loud in that small spot.
And that's exactly what influence is, though, isn't it? And it's that's exactly what it is. And I think we had Chris Roberts on talk about GDPR last week, and actually saying that GDPR and the stuff that's happening in Europe has shrunk so many people's email list. But it's actually a great thing, because now they're actually having conversations with people that they who actually want to have conversations with. Instead of having a 0.05% open rate on your emails, you're getting a 30-40% open rate, because these people actually care and want to have these conversations. And I think that's an incredible point to make, Bella. It's again, we talk about it a lot, and there is these things, isn't it, where I know that people still come to me, and the first thing, like people especially who are non-marketers, actually come to me and say, Ben, how many Twitter followers you got? And I go, something around 5,000-6,000. And they go, I thought you'd have more. Well, for me, that's great. I could go and buy, if I cared enough, I could go and buy a shed load more, but that doesn't bother me in the slightest.
For you. Yeah. And it's funny, like, that's a perfect example. Like, my email open is like 30-35% right now. And I'm like stoked by that. And I was shocked to learn that it's so much lower in other people doing the same thing I'm doing, but it's because like I switch it up. Like, I send out emails on Friday, videos to my people on Fridays, and there's a whole nother topic, but I'm always constantly switching it up to make it like unique and interesting. And I think that we've got to be less focused on the numbers and more focused on the changes that are happening with our communities.
100%. I think that's a mic drop there to finish it up, Bella.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on today, Bella. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much. And thanks for having this podcast. You're a fantastic host.
Oh, you're too kind, too kind. Wow. I'm not even joking. And then when I said to Bella that the better the episode I find, the more notes I take. And this one is absolutely no exception. I made a huge amount of notes in there. And I think it's incredibly worthwhile considering, because I know for a lot of medium-sized businesses or ones that are working in more B2B environment, it's not always easy to think about Facebook groups. So it's not one of the first things you would consider. But there are some incredible ways of building Facebook groups. You've got to be a bit committed to it and be smart about it. And again, one of the themes that seems to run through this podcast with all the different buzzwords and buzz terms that we're using is actually you still need to think about things, and it is entirely possible to build a business, build a living, build an audience, build authority, as long as you think about things first and you put the time and effort into them. And I think I absolutely loved that from Bella, and it was so great to get her on to really chuck all those knowledge bombs at us. And remind as well, before you go, please take a look at the crowdfunding page for the Marketing Buzzword to Marketing Authority book. We're nearly halfway through the month now. I need more. That's all I'm going to say. Take a look at it, honestly. Literally $15. Is that £13.50? That's like, what was it, €13, something like that. Get a signed copy of the book and really help support sort of the cause and what I'm trying to do with the Marketing Buzzword project. And I'll be back on Thursday with another bite-sized buzzword for you to get your teeth stuck into. So, goodbye for now.
This podcast is part of the You Are the Media Network.